Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. Sound moves the inner realms, light moves the outer realms. And so, why has Mr. Within coined these terms? Why do I use these terms, the inner realms and the outer realms? You see, I was under the impression as a human being who's ran 28 times around the sun. We are under the impression that we are people, and as people, we are identifying with what we see, the body, the matter in the room. It is the most incredible lie that we are only one kind of being, that we are only in one kind of world. We notice that in the human experience, that our eyes open, we awaken to the day, we awaken to life, even though we're physically born. Upon attaining individual consciousness, we awaken to the realm. So you can say there is an objective birth, and then there is a birth of the subject of identity, where body and name are one. I notice that on this planet, we have spoken about body, we have spoken about a mind, and we have spoken about the unknown other, the soul. The idea of the soul went out of the picture. Now the idea of mind remains, and the idea of mind would have also gotten out of the picture if there was no physical component to the spontaneity of why we are conscious of certain processes and why not others. That means in the process of filtering every idea based on a materialistic value, we reached a point where we realized we named matter into meaning. The hard problem of consciousness is another way of saying it is the edge of meaning. I notice that in front of my eyes there is objects. When we open our eyes, we find the objective. The precondition to it is light. I notice that we are living another kind of life. that matter has a mind and the awareness to matter has a mind. The mind of matter has structure. The mind of awareness has attention. I noticed that there was a life that would move in accordance to form, and there was a life formlessly watching the form move. In front of your eyes, your outer realms, light is required. Behind your eyes, in the inner realms, in the pitch black abyss where imagination appears to dwell. Your inner realms is the potential side of energy. Your outer realms is the kinetic side of energy. We look at the Yin Yang symbol. In many states of life and mind, we require balance. We require night to comprehend day. We require day to comprehend night. Before we can know what a good action is, we need to identify what a bad action is, to not do it and consider we're good. If we consider what a bad action is, we need a reference point of the good. And so it has come to be the same way that if we have a reference point of the self, we require a reference point of the world. And the man's mind and it's the notion that it is not an object is a suggestion that your mind is the world watching itself. Your body is you watching yourself. The magnificent work of art in nature, where it managed to step out of itself in a way that it could never forget itself. You know, light is a gift for non-existence. And sound is a gift for existence. It's beautiful. It is beautiful that we are incredibly multidimensional beings and we have been roaming this earth as individuals, as worshippers of objects, subjects, just wherever the attention's been locked on. Your inner realms can move and you can also move them. Your inner realms can move you, usually it's moving people. But you can also move your inner realms in the same way you move your outer realms if there is not an inclusion of the expectation of time. That means when you walk into a known realm, there is visible teachings. When you walk into unknown realms, there's invisible teachings. That means you must walk timelessly into the unknown and walk with a watch in the known. All right, guys. I had to get something. I'm back now. So here's the thing. I mean, I gotta be serious. I realize I need paper to be accurate because, as much as I'm poetic, because the idea of the concept of the inner realms is new, it requires a certain designed mechanistic explanation. So I'll tell you. Pretty much what's happened on this planet is that there was nothing. What I mean by nothing, I don't mean nothing. I mean there was literally no emergence of an individual creature. It was the world moving. That means the first phase of evolution was the emergence of the unconscious world. After the unconscious world, there emerged an unconscious self. The unconscious self, I define it, Mr. Within would define it as the objective evolution. I remember now. The objective evolution is the unconscious self. And then from the unconscious self, we went to the conscious self. This was the subjective evolution. Now, and after this, we're going to another phase of evolution, which is called the conscious world, which I'm going to leave that for another talk. But really, from the unconscious self, from an object taking shape, individual shape with design, hands, legs, head, creaturehood. As creaturehood emerged, then the next step of the creature was to notice that it's a creature. And it has taken us 4 billion years to master this art and sculpt it into who we are now. So do you see there was an objective evolution and inspiration for matter to take a certain form, but there has also been a certain inspiration for the identity, that something strange happened, that evolution made an object become a subject to itself. So I noticed the objective evolution, which they teach in school, but nobody was teaching the subjective evolution. You don't know this word I'm saying, the subjective evolution, how long of a victory it was for me. That means it took me a while to come to this conclusion from the inner realms, from my experiences. Because I notice we're saying ego, ego, ego. There's that word everywhere, the I thought, but we are thinking about the subjective self, but we haven't thought about the subjective realm. So imagination is like, what is that? You know, we're all, this whole species is like, what is imagination? Yet it's all imagining itself into being real. That means it's one of the deepest questions in philosophy. Are we imagining reality, or is imagination real? Are we imagining reality, or is imagination real? This is the deepest question, one of the deepest philosophical questions. Any advanced communicators out there that make some progress over this idea, feel free to at any time in this lifetime to contact me. Because this is really the game, where man is wondering if he's an object, or if he's a subject. So I noticed there was a subjective evolution. And the subjective evolution is strange because it echoes on an individual level, and it has also been sparked way long ago. So, right now, where are we left as human beings? We have objective, known bodies, while simultaneously also being subjective, unknown minds. That means we are finally grounding as a species to notice that we are alive as objects, but also as subjects. But what's fascinating is that without an object, you cannot really have a subject. You don't know what you're looking at. And without a subject, the object has no soul. So we can say a subject, which is not an object, is literally like the soul of an object, a subject. That means if we saw the biological body as a house, the personality is the owner. And what is the owner of the personality? The attention. And what is the attention? It is the presence of energy, being conscious instantaneously in such a way that it doesn't have meaning. And it doesn't, and it's at the same time, it's neither meaningless. That means something that's just there, it's just there. That's the brilliance of life. It doesn't need to explain how it is here. It just is. You know what's funny? We can storify the object. We can store the object as sensory perception. That means nobody doubts the light in their eyes being different than the object they're touching. Right now I am touching this cup of tea. There's literally like a almost empty cup of tea. So this cup of tea, I am touching it physically. I am receiving signals of sensation by touching it, and right now I'm orbiting, I'm just literally spinning the cup of tea. So objectively I'm seeing this. Now check this out. Light is entering my eyes. That means light is geometrical access of sight. So light, I need light to see, and we need sound to subjectively see. We need light to objectively see. We need sound to subjectively animate. This is why you're going to notice that what knowledge is vocal transmission. And it's the highest quality is vocal, because if a robot was talking to you, it wouldn't have a different tone. There's something about life where our emotions make us human. That means it's never wrong to have an emotion. It's wrong to act on it, though. It's not wrong to get angry. It's wrong to throw that burning coal on someone else, though. Buddha says, whenever you get angry, it's like burning coal, your hand burns. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine angry people are throwing burning coal? Imagine like a group of businessmen walking and some angry person throwing burning coal at the businessman. They'll be like, what the, you know? The world has brought us into a position where we have paid our dues in worshiping objects, and 2020 is the year I declared it, that it is the era of advanced communication. We can officially start acting like we have surpassed as a species language worship. By the way, there's one person listening to this talk right now. Thanks, whoever you are. It means a lot. So anyways, the objective evolution and the subjective evolution. So what does that mean? That means when you get angry at a person, you get angry about maybe what they physically have done, but then you get angry of the subjective implication of objective action. I honestly feel because we feel we're subjects, that's why we suffer as objects. If we were not a subject to ourselves, we could not suffer. Even though there could be pain, but there would be no container, no self that's breaking. You know, St. Francis Assisi says, it is in dying to self that we are born to eternal life. The object is an attention. The subject is being watched in attention. The attention is the common denominator, just the mere attention. Like, think of attention plus existence equals experience. So you can say all content of existence and all content of experience have from the beginning been in the presence of attention. So attention is the presence of the world. Your attention is the source of your life. It is the spotlight that shines upon the realm where information can be extracted, because those are the forms you're looking at. Ah, sorry guys, this was on mute and I was talking. I don't know how long I was off. Okay, it's been mute for a while, so sorry folks. Wow. All right, I was simply saying that the inner realms and the outer realms, they relate to, let us say, our relationship with light, and the inner realms, our relationship with sound. The relationship with sound takes us towards the mystery of language, and uh, the outer realms. Okay, sorry guys. Let me see. Yin and Yang are dancing in the same circle. Inside yin, there's a bit of yang, and inside yang, there's a bit of yin. Inside an objective reality, there is a bit of subjectivity, which is the truth. And inside a subjective reality, there is a bit of objectivity as the truth. That means man is the infusion of two realms. What that means is, in the world of mind, we are an object. In the world of this is what I can say. In the inner realms, the self, this could be a very complex idea. So if we say there's an inner realm, outer realm, let us say that there's in the inner realm and the outer realm, there is each a self and a world. Guys, I wish you could see what I'm drawing right now. Like what the diagram I'm drawing. So the self is the common link between the outer realm and the inner realm. The self is actually the two dots, and imagination is its own dimensional domain, and reality is its own dimensional domain, but they are like the chicken and the egg. They are like an infinite dance where it's like we're oscillating between the visible and invisible infinitely, and we just call it the words we have found so far, you know. There are worlds moving behind our eyes. And there's worlds moving in front of it. And so when we look at matter, the only information we have access to is materialistic. When we are in an immaterial state or an unknown state, the only information you have access is the unknown. It's a sort of emptiness. So if a human being can master or attain contentment or cultivate understanding, when you can become comfortable with the symbol, simple, silent, and still, you will be able to be comfortable with the complex, the noisy, the sound, and the movement. Once you identify with the space before what's in the space, then you can very easily identify with any sector of that space. It's as if it is, in some sense, it is impossible to travel the galaxy as a person. But if the person had the experience of a universe, they would be able to have the knowledge of various galaxies simultaneously. So it is the body of identity which suggests the space, which is in a sense the context that is born, then the concept arises. Because we are identifying with physicality, we're just looking at the beginning and we're like, how did the concept suddenly arise out of nowhere? From nothing came something, but we don't realize that there was a effort. There, it's like it took a while for nothing to be nothing. Sometimes I have thought our universe to be like a train station, where we're at the train station at the subway, and the subway booths come in, the subway train comes in, and imagine you don't get on it, and the train goes by. I felt like, what if this universe is not non-local or local? What if it's multi-local, where one of those localities could include non-locality? We can say objects equal movement of known light beams, plus the design of the unknown object, plus the known plus unknown design. So unknown design plus light, like a chemical, and our whole intelligence as a human being like a chemical. It's like a chemical reaction. I feel human beings never know actually what the outer realms look like, because it's like when two chemicals react, they both transform. So I think that the reason we never know what the outer realms is because every light beam that enters our eyes is transforming us. So we are not the same person, so we can never have a reference point to actually know what is out there. What can I say? Not only the inner and outer realms are codependent, not only do they feel like a vertical and horizontal dimension intersecting, and consciousness is the central point of it. It's just that in order to have some sort of content in the inner realms, we need the outer realms. And in order to have some sort of content for the outer realms, to even be able to notice the outer realms, we need the inner realms. So we can say we are actually minds that are being the world first, then being the self. So, you know what's cool about life? It's designed to existentially break, but experientially it's designed to for you to feel like you are watching it. So technically death is like watching the self simultaneously, so you can say it's like the purpose of existence is to realize it is void. The purpose of experience is to realize it is eternal. The outer realms are destined towards the void. The inner realms cannot die because the viewer is not an object. That means for me, death is just a fascinating moment to see what is occurring to the subjective meaning of the person's life. Now, of course, life is something that's going on here is that we're like candles in a dark room. We are like mysterious lanterns kept in the sky, you know? It's as if we are the children of Mother Earth and Father Time. So I can tell you honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the archetypes of masculinity and femininity are just the earth and the sky, to be honest. The sky is a sort of ever present, like, you know what it is? It's as if the sky, if it was the father of the creature, it has never left it. And the earth is being taken care by the sky, you know? Of course, nowadays the earth is taking care of itself, but but I'm just saying, guys, that the world is filled with mysteries. We're in a linguistic simulation of familiar patterns that we haven't decided to change and update. The unknown is everywhere. Anytime you uh, trust the new, technically that's what happens. You go through the unknown. Right now, as I'm speaking, if anyone listens, it is sound leading to image behind your eyes. Honestly, when we read a book and it has meaning to us, that's what's going on. Ink on a page has turned into a film behind your eyes. Now, check this out. For the outer realms, light is what gives image, but here's the difference. We have to hear something and process it through an alphabet and language and dictionary with different definitions, but in the outer realms, light and image are instant. That means, do you see, the thing is that words have definitions. It's not instant. It's not just that when you hear the word, you instantly know what it is. unless you could see it, is think through images, unless language has been realized by you to just be, it's a mask for image. Really what life is the absence of image and the return of image. That's really it. Life is a mystery of like being in a bubble of images and wondering what is beyond that. Now, I would like to say that in some of my earlier talks, like a Venn diagram, I saw light and sound leading to a third technology, that we don't know yet. And I think this technology is going to be as profound as the next language I've considered to be geometric. So there will come a time where language geometry will a geometry that resonates with the geometrical constitution of nature will become our language. So the next language will actually be like a portal, like an experiential portal. Because light is matter and sound is meaning, is space. Sound moves through space. So when we hear words and sounds, we orient to the space of reception. When we see stuff, we orient to the space of expression. Because when you're in a world where there's more life in the room, you feel alive. I've been suddenly like, just very simple, or the evening's been dull, and I've suddenly gone to a gathering with friends, and it's been like something very uplifting. It's as if the room has a life of its own with the more minds that enter it. We can think of the jungle as creatures just in groups emerged, or we can think, you know what it is? It's kind of like, I feel, how hilarious would it be that just like a gardener goes to different parts of the garden and throws seeds to plants, like, I don't know, in a rose orchard or something, rose garden. So I thought, what if like the advanced civilization was like, all right, let me throw some seeds on this planet and some seeds on this other planet and some seeds on this planet. I thought, like, how hilarious would it be that an advanced civilization is gardening life? maybe, maybe I was thinking. Sorry, an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. That's what I'm trying to say. So, anyways, when I look at my inner realms, I become quiet. When I become quiet, I also close my eyes, because then the inner realms are on their own and you can really visualize. That means, if you like, I can't, I don't know, maybe not everybody can do this, but I think everybody can eventually practice their way to it. What it is that really what thinking is the same as, like, a person, they say close your eyes and imagine. So now you've imagined, okay, so let's say you close your eyes and imagine something. Now open your eyes. You're going to see that the imagination didn't change, but the light in the room does influence that thought. I'll give you an example. Like right now, my eyes are closed. I'm imagining I'm imagining like like right now, let's say I'm imagining, what's a good example? Let's say a horse. Okay, let's say I imagine like uh, a sort of celestial creature that looks like a horse, you know? Now, I can visualize this creature and then open my eyes. Now, the light of the room meshes in again with that. So, what I mean is like the outer realms blur the inner realms because they are a source of meaning themselves. When you open your eyes, visuals are information packages. You know how they say like a photograph is like worth 1,000 words or something? So it's like that. So imagine every image you see, it's like it has the capacity to become endless sentences. Life, is it just complex proteins moving in the void? Is it the dissension from an eternal hood? Is it a mystery that never has an answer? Is it an answer that could never be questioned? What is this world of ours? What is this life? Is it poetry written by the hands of the unknown? Is it strategy developed by the known? And what is love doing in the middle of the chaos and order? You see, there's some there. Legend has it that there have been some very lucky individuals that they have managed to be so sincere that they have giggled their way to the paradise that was here before Earth was. There is something about energy that it before it dies, it laughs. You know, I think death it would be an incredibly hilarious situation because it is the moment where the meaning is becoming meaningless and the person's like, all right, so what was the point? And you see the point was for the artwork that was drawn to also at some point erase, and then you see the space you're creating for the future generations. And what it is pretty much the way I see my life is I'm like a quarterback with a microphone in my hand and I'm running towards running with the ball, like with the microphone in my hand towards the end of the field. And right before, or whatever, right before I kind of like, when it becomes a crucial moment, throw the microphone at the future generations and then most likely just watch the game from the sidelines or. I don't know. Attention has many ways it can move, and there's ways it can move before the concept movement existed. You know, when you get access to the memory of the experiencer, it's not existentially bound. Everything becomes like a color that can be used. You don't know, like, it's like we have this notion, we have so personalized the situation of this planet that we have forgotten that before people, there was stuff going on. And because we have made ourselves so self-centered, you know what it is? It's like it is true in the outer realms. Thank God Galileo and Copernicus and the efforts of many great minds, they came and said, all right, we're not the center of the universe. You know, they got rid of the ego outside, the Inquisition's kind of arrogance. But we still in our air realms feel we're revolving around ourselves. That means in front of my eyes, yes, I'm on a planet that is orbiting around the sun. But behind my eyes, I am a moment centered in itself. And so beyond the self is where the greater dimensions of the world lie. And you can only access, not only, but the most efficient way to access it is through service. I'm not joking. Rabindranath Tagore has this quote where he says, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. That service was joy is how advanced civilizations are built. When your desire has become the greatness of the world. Now that's when it gets interesting. Now that's when this planet becomes a hot spot for uh, evolutionary feats never witnessed. Because right now you can say inferior dimensional beings, they are carried by their dimension. Superior dimensional beings, they carry their dimension. And when you carry your dimension, you realize you're carrying all that is in a moment of being. There's a quote from Hafiz, I'll tell you. Let me find it. It's the poem is called Someone Should Start Laughing Now. Someone Should Start Laughing, a poem by Hafiz, the Sufi mystic from 700 years ago. I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, how are you? I have 1,000 brilliant lies for the question, what is God? If you think that the truth can be known from words, if you think that the sun and the ocean can pass through that tiny opening called the mouth, oh, someone should start laughing. Someone should start wildly laughing now. Do you see what he means? Hafiz, this man is so wise. At that 700 years ago, he stepped out of the linguistic simulation. He noticed he's not his inner realms. He managed to witness his inner realms. Now society just thinks it's its outer realms. There has to first come the yin yang balance, then there comes the noticing of the chaos and order in one circle. That means balance is evolution's way of actually being able to see something new. We breathe, we move. So all we have known is the movement of the breath. And so it's a multidimensional system. Just like the body has different organs, they're part of the same body, they all require to work at once to keep the whole system going. I would say man is like in the heart of the cosmos. He has found a way to care for the center, where the value of the circumference comes from. Okay, what can be said? The known, you can respond to it as a subject. You can respond to known objects as known subjects, as a subject. But you cannot respond to a subject as an object, because the authorization in the inner realm surpassed the authorization in the outer. This is why we can see probabilities to the moment before we make a decision. At the same time as I say the inner realms and outer realms, the poet Rumi has a quote where he says, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a place. I will meet you there. And when the soul sits on that grass, the world is too full to talk about. I feel that regardless of the outer realms and inner realms, the moment is being the moment. That eyes open in different ways and they also close in different ways. And even though we are experiencing life as if, whether you can see it like Heraclitus, no man steps in the same river twice, it's not the same river, it's not the same man. What does that mean? That means every moment has a beginning, middle, and end. And then another beginning, middle, and end. So technically, we have a bunch of memories, but we don't consider the idea of reincarnation. We consider that we remember yesterday, even though it's past and we're in a new day. what we consider that. I mean, technically, a memory means you are literally doing mediumship with a dead memory, with a dead moment. It's literally kind of, you can say in a strange way, a sort of necromancy, where the memory, the moment passed, and suddenly, like, we remember the moment that was past, you know? And so the interesting thing is, we should treat it this way, that for the body, the moment passed, but for the mind, it didn't. That means there could be some events that happen to a person's life where that the event didn't reach its ending. Just like a story where it has a beginning, middle, end, that event was like at the middle, and suddenly the person went to a different place, their attention went elsewhere, and that program and application was never closed. You know what's fascinating? Our brain is like a computer, but the interface is internal and external. Yeah. So technically, we are biological phenomena leading towards this mirage, from materialistic perspective, leading to this mirage of selfhood. So technically, if we consider everything is like the hallucination of an atomic reality, all our personalities, we're nothing other than mirages. That means the reason we feel like simulation, like life is a simulation, it's not that because there's a 1 billionth chance that it's a perfect video game, but that it's there's but the notion that it's temporary. Time is, like, I honestly feel true philosophy begins when the notion of time is surpassed. Time is really like the inside the box, not outside. So I can say what appears to us as a three-dimensional, or with the addition of time, a fourth-dimensional kind of space-time continuum. And let us also include Albert Einstein's branch of space and time being mixed, of space-time. But I'm just saying, imagine all of that is again inside, like an ostrich has put its head inside the ground. If it takes its head outside of the ground, it's as if the soul is hiding in a material life. We are inside a box of where the walls of this box are made of atoms of light and sound. Because the atom for us has structure, has design, and we need light first to have the design. So it's as if man needs light before he can consider a design to light, so the mystery of the unknown stands before knowledge. Technically, this means that all of human knowledge materialistically may stand, but immaterialistically, the other side of the coin is a totally different structure. There we go, guys. I found the picture. Miraculously, I found the picture I was looking for. Wow. This is a great day or night. So this is the picture I'm talking about that are, it's as if we're inside a world. Okay, you see this picture? You see this guy? This was the early depiction of how they felt reality was a simulation, right? So they thought it was all in the center, Earth was the center, and everything was around Earth. Then they realized, no, there's different things going on beyond the matrix of manifestation, beyond the skin of form. There is the movements of different worlds, really. And you see what's fascinating? You see this guy has peeked his head out, but his most of his body is inside. You know, again, the yin yang notion. And you know what's interesting about this picture, guys? The guy is as huge as a tree. So that means when you get, like, when the world become like, you outgrow the t-shirt you're wearing. Let's say if they fast forward time, you would seek something bigger. So when the self becomes the ultimate, then that ultimate self seeks an ultimate world. This is why it's not enough to have power. After that, you want to go home. You want to go to power's home, which means a powerful realm. So whether, just like we have bodhisattvas, you can say there is the opposite. And the opposite would inevitably realize that it is the collective advancement. The mysteries of the inner and outer realm, aside from sound and light being the final frontiers, it is a conclusion that there is a mind we are unfamiliar with and we're in. That means right now, if you think about extraterrestrial contact, there's literally no extraterrestrial being contact done on Earth. At most, there's a bunch of people like in the New Age community in the Mount Shasta area. They feel like channeling extraterrestrials or something, right? So you see, man has not cared for the unfamiliar of his outer realms even too much. So that means we have to wonder. Like honestly, I sometimes think if there was an alien, if an extraterrestrial civilization invaded Earth, would our species be ready? That means we have to identify the inner realms. It's the era. It's the inner realms. This term is so crucial. It is suggesting that we are now taking and we are ushering in new dimensions of mind into language. Now we can stabilize the dimensions in like, can you imagine like the idea of the inner realms and the outer realms? How much would that revolutionize like relationship of doctor patient, or psychologist patient, or whatever, or any kind of human being, or even parents speaking to their kids, or kids speaking to their parents? That means it's as if when you see someone behave, you're like, hey, tell me what's going on in your inner realms. Why are you doing this? And suddenly the person realizes the distinction between what they are projecting upon the realm and what is actually there in the realm. The poet Hafez, who I mentioned earlier, he says, bring your neck out of that dark nest in which you hide. I shall pour effulgence into your mind. If man moves towards the ultimate has nowhere to go. The ultimate awaits man as much as man awaits the ultimate. If you're a person in the world seeking a power archetype, an archetype of being something specific, let me tell you, this world is like weather. We don't control it. And the inner realms are also like weather. But they're also like, you can also control, you can like behind your eyes, you move as attention. In front of your eyes, what's in the attention moves. And that's why we say it's a conscious waking state. Western society's culture is fundamentally, to some degree, very centered on the conscious waking state. It's as if we're treating ourselves as if we're in one kind of world and it's in one kind of state, and that's it. But in ancient times, they were conscious that the inner realms were different, and they realized that the inner realms were the gate of how clear the outer realms appear to you. That sometimes it could be a stoic issue to the psychology of the human being, the expression of violence or savageness or whatever. That means it's as if like, do you care for the evolution of yourself, or do you care for the evolution of all that the human being can be? Because if you care for the evolution of what the human being can be, it would imply that you have to, in some sense, pay more attention to the world than yourself. This is why I'm saying service becomes kind of like, honestly, becomes the only joy in a world where there's suffering. That while you suffer, your attention and energy through direction and speed, the velocity of your ambition becomes your guide. In life, if you do things naturally, I have learned, you will feel like you will learn, you can accept them. If you do things unnaturally, there is some pattern subconsciously, just in the back of the mind of the person, that will at the end of the day not allow them. That means sometimes those people who are lucky or unlucky, the unluckiness is literally like one tiny issue to it's like a belief on a moment that you have not cared to look at to reorchestrate the vision. There's some beliefs, some ideology, some ways of that the human being has a preference, that I realize it's like the child is a kid You know, like, I mean, the child is like, the person is a child. When they're a child, have an emotional language, children, until they get snapped out of that emotional language, and the playground becomes the battlefield of the modern man. This is why there is also a key importance of not growing up too quick, but also real preparing for what is to come in this world. That when you realize you and every person has to be self-reliant, but then the world is also self-reliant. The world needs selves to update it. Honestly, I feel like our energy is like food for the planet. Like, inevitably it will be, but I'm saying right now it's as if the planet is trying to, it's like human beings, we know we move when we move our limbs. It's like we know a planet is alive when creatures emerge out of it and start moving. Like, that's honestly a suggestion that the planet is alive, but it's not alive in a way we can comprehend. Now, the notion of simulations has entered modern society, so inevitably we're looking at veils. I recommend whoever's listening to go listen to Alan Watts' Veil of Thoughts lecture and the Spectrum of Love lecture and the Cosmic Network lecture. These three lectures are crucial for human beings to actually become exposed to the content. Because there's something in life that, regardless of its nullification, it's about the realness of sight. That means some things you can understand if you try to invent them. That means, for example, if you look at, let's say, whatever, let's say a computer screen, or let's say a phone. It's like when you attempt anew to see how that something was built or how something is there in front of your eyes. Technically, you're trying to comprehend how something works before you have opinion. And that level of sight, I can tell you, that's the clarity of the attention. Back in the day, people had weapons. Now the mind's decision making has become a weapon. A person's decision can influence the lives of many people. So the mind is a weapon. So what that means is, back in the day, they mastered their weapon, they could wield their weapon, and their weapon wasn't 24/7 in their hand. And so now we have to wield our attention, our mind, and to also work with its rhythms of how it's strange. Existentially, your body is existing in the bed, but the conscious experiencer enters the gap of sleep, which is this beautiful mystery. Sometimes I can't wait to sleep because it's the moment where I don't have to move the moment anymore. But when I wake up, it's like this constant effort of move, move, move. And the reason that move, move, move is there is not because I personally want to, it's because the biological program and all the epigenetical factors of social value and where the civilization is going, that's crucial. So even though this guy has peeked his head out of the world, if he truly understood what was out there, he wouldn't fear the world. He'd come and finish his work in this sector and then move on. For the universe, we don't see it, but I'll say this. This has to be put into human metaphysics. There's mountains. We don't see them. There's mountains in empty space. And this idea, maybe it's 100% too early, I feel, for us to consider this idea, but I feel it needs to be said. The reason why it's like mountains is because there's elevations of dimension. That means we think in multidimensionality, like the whole universe, are there parallel universes? Do you know there's clouds that I mean, of course, I'm saying this, entertain these ideas playfully, but I'm saying it's there are that you can say, I mean, I'm sharing from my inner realm experience. It's like There is just like how you go somewhere and there's a cloud and it rains. It's like, and the experience of passing through underneath that cloud is rainy. It's like there's dimensions like that. That dimensions that are like weather. Dimensions that are just like you move into a certain part of space and suddenly the dimensional framework is different. This may be a bit shocking, but I feel if I mean, this is very complex because how do we give direction to a sphere in a vacuum? But I'll tell you this, I have this sort of notion that we are in a dark room, in a dark sky, and we don't realize what's underneath the abyss of space. You know, there's this story, I'll share this before I wrap this up, folks, but it's a quiet night tonight, you know. There is a mountain climber. This mountain climber, it's at night and he falls. And he can't get up and he's stuck. And he either has to cut the rope and end it, or he has to just wait there and freeze till morning. And it's completely pitch black, and he looks down and he sees it's completely pitch black. It's like it's at night. And so he's there, and this man makes a prayer in that moment in this story. He makes a prayer like he's shouting for the help of the creator of the universe. And he says, God help me. And a voice suddenly arises. A voice that he doesn't know where it's coming from, but he hears this voice. And the voice says, as if it's like the moment he said the prayer, like the voice came after. And the voice says, trust your moment, cut the rope. Cut the rope. And this mountain climber with the rope, you know, connected, like it's an intense situation. Literally, he looks down and it's pitch black abyss. And he suddenly thinks about it and he says, no, I can't. It makes no sense. Maybe I'm hallucinating. You know, maybe I'm so freaked out this voice is a hallucination. I can't cut the rope, even though the guy made a prayer. And so what happens is that the guy doesn't cut the rope, and it becomes morning and there's an expedition going by and they see the most shocking thing. They see this man has frozen and died. And they see that he was a meter away from ground. The guy, it was at night, the mountain climber, he couldn't see underneath him, but literally it was ground. It was ground footing in the story. Literally, like if he had cut the rope, he would have hit ground and he could have gotten out of there. But because he was in that situation, in that mindset, it was very, I don't know. It's one of those stories where you feel like the mysteries of the world are, they surpass the language that we have contained in it. Anyways, guys, I hope this episode was helpful. And sometimes I wonder, what is energy doing? And it seems that we are here to release the potential that we were made for. Much blessings and namaste.